guys, yours truly, Kevin Grace. I'm here in my hometown of Baltimore. I'm located at 301-317 Reed Street. Now, at one time, Reed Street was known as Richmond. Now, I don't know exactly what year they changed the name from Richmond to Reed, but anyway, there's a market behind me, or what used to be known as a market. The Richmond Market used to be right behind me. In 1868, the city of Baltimore purchased this land between Reed, Biddle, and Howard Street, and they made this market. Now, it was called the Richmond Market and opened in October 1872. And it also had an armory attached to it. It was the 5th Regiment Armory. Now, they stayed here until 1903, the armory, and they moved over to Preston Street, which is still the location of the 5th Regiment Armory. So you've probably seen it right off of Howard Street. Now, the top locations then were floors were dedicated to military purposes. They wound up leasing the top 2 floors for the 29th Regiment of the Maryland National Guard. It was Naval Reserves. And as I said, the rest of the building was the market. Now, the market was did very well. Now, right next to me is Martin Luther King. Of course, Martin Luther King was not here at the time. That was Biddle Street. Martin Luther King didn't become Martin Luther King until the 70s. And this was kind of, you could walk straight through, and of course State Center was not over here. There were homes, and for what my research showed me, there were a lot of domestic workers that would come here and get the foods that they needed for the day, and it did well. Now, like most markets, business started dwindling. So in autumn of 1955, the city wound up giving out eviction notices, and what merchants were still around, they wound up leaving. Then this building sat kind of vacant for about 15 years, and they kept talking about what were they going to use this building for. And right next to it was, of course, Maryland General Hospital. So in 1970, they wound up selling this property to Maryland General, and they added the bridge to connect the rest of their building to this as well. Now, up top was an arch for the armory, but that was removed, and that bridge over there was added to connect here. But like I said, this is a very old building, so it goes back to 1872. And like I said, I never heard of the Richmond Market, but I gone into State Center, and there was a picture of a market, and it said Richmond, and I was like, Richmond Market? Where is that? I've never heard of this. And did my research, and that's what I found out. And you can see how these archways are. That's where they had a lot of the vendors there. And I heard also outside there were some vendors in the street. They had their little areas marked. And of course, you notice on this sign here, it says Armory Place. So that was, of course, Armory Place. And on this side is Howard Street. I'm looking to see if there's any old markings. I think maybe here could be where, I don't know. I don't know if those are the markings for where they used to have for the vendors, merchants to put their stuff. But like I said, you could see the archway there of how the building was. You can go on this side over here, and we'll get a look of what it looks like. You've driven by here all the time, and you probably never noticed. And of course, this is the light rail right here, and the UB Blake Center right there. And like I said, Martin Luther King turns right there. This is it right here. This was the Richmond Market. So again, there's more stuff. And of course, this is Antique Row. All these buildings were antique buildings, or buildings that sold antiques. But and of course, this is Maryland General. And this is the building right here. So again, more information that you probably didn't know about. Maybe there's some old timers out there that knew, but like I said, in about 1955, this had closed from being a market. So I don't know how many folks are still around that would remember this as a market unless their family members told them about this. All right, guys, now it's looking closer to the sidewalk. Now, since it's painted, it's hard to see, but you can see the different numbers here. This was let me get on this side, maybe see it better. 396. What other numbers we see? 394. 393. 392. 391. So as you can see, these are the stall numbers of where the different merchants had their stuff. I was looking over there, so I don't think anything is over there. That's for the hospital. But over here, you can see the numbers right there, and like a 387. And I'm pretty sure there's some maybe still around here as well. But the little things that you find out, and you never know. I also forgot to mention that right after the building was sold to Maryland General, the bottom floor was used for Rite Aid for a number of years, all the way until the mid-90s, and then they moved around the corner. So you may remember seeing a Rite Aid drugstore down in the north corner down here, and it moved actually around the corner, and now they're actually closed. So I think maybe the Rite Aids was down this area right down here, and like I said, you can see that there was some type of doorway there, but it moved over there, and recently the Rite Aid went out of business, so I'd been over there. So it was here until the mid-1990s. But anyway, if you like this video, please subscribe down below, and feel free to leave any comments about the Richmond Market.